Hey there, it's Ryan Reynolds, and you are listening to Fearless in Devotion, the absolute worst podcast in all of football history. Go get them, guys.
Here they come, a mighty champions.
Praise on all, and welcome to the latest episode, a bonus podcast episode of the Fearless in Devotion podcast. We have Lee Trundle, we have myself, Andrew Pollard, and we have a very, very, very special guest. 34 goals for Wrexham in 106 games, a key part of the 2003 promotion side, an overhead kick for his first goal for the club, just because of course it was, and one of the greatest entertainers to ever grace the racecourse, Lee Trundle. How are you, Truns?
I'm good, thanks, boys. You okay?
Yeah. All good, mate. Thanks for giving up some time to come and talk to us. Obviously, as well as playing for ourselves, you play for Swansea. You've had experience of playing in the Championship, so that's something we'll get into. Before we get into all of that, of course, go and check out our fantastic newsletter, which the link is below this video or below this audio description if you're listening on a podcast platform. Also, as well, this is brought to you by our fantastic sponsors, the Fat Ball Group, the Fat Boy Mould and Wrexham, Hill Street Social, the Mice Gwyn Hall, FA's The Corner Board, The Book, and the Croyce Howl. A few of those places you've been to, Trunds, and had a few free pints over the years, mate. In fact, I believe one of your shirts is up on the Hill Street Social wall. So to get into it, first and foremost, Trunds, obviously Wrexham promoted to the Championship back to back, ole ole, as the song goes. Yourself, you've made that jump from League One up to the Championship with Swansea. Boo. But what was obviously it's slightly different to how it was when you were playing, because football just naturally progresses. But how did you find that jump yourself from League One to the Championship, and what was the main differences?
Yeah, I think this is the biggest difference as well, this one now, just in the quality and the strength of players, in the speed of the game, and just tactically aware more as well. And I think like even the way the National League, is that where you come from a while ago?
Yeah, National League, League Two, League One, and now.
Yeah, so I think like the National and League Two, I think are more or less the same type of league. I think League One is a little upgrade when you get them top teams, but I think then when you come into the Championship now, that's where it just changes completely. I think the difference in quality in everything, not only the players, I think even at the stadiums that you go to, the size of the clubs that you're playing against now, everything becomes even bigger. And I think, even though Wrexham have been brilliant and they're on that momentum where they've had them back-to-back promotions, and I think that helps you a lot. But I do think this season will be one where I think the fans have got to be a bit more patient, because they are going into, a really tough league.
Yeah, there are some fans. I mean, for me, I'm one of those where even this past season, obviously we went and got promoted in second place. Before a ball was kicked, I would have happily taken mid-season consolidation, and then obviously we surprised the odds by going and getting promoted again. And there is that kind of, some people got the mindset now where, yeah, but we've done these three on the bounce. We can do another one. Is it for you? Is it unrealistic to think we'll be challenging for promotion, whether it's the playoffs or in around the top end of the table next season?
Do you know what, Andy? I don't think it's unrealistic to think that way. I went into a Bristol City side where they just got promoted out of League One, and we ended up getting to the Championship playoff final that year. We got beat by Hull, where Dean Windass scored that goal. Yeah. So, I wouldn't say it's out of reach. And as I say, especially with the way Wrexham are as well, and you're used to winning, you're in a winning mentality, and I think that goes a long way as well. So I wouldn't put it out of reach, but I would just say, especially from a fan's point of view, you can't get disheartened when you'll go to these grounds and there could be some heavy defeats, or you're not going to get everything the way that you're having these last couple of years. And I think that's why the most important thing is now the fans to realise how far the club have come in that short space of time, and all stick together, because I think everyone being together is probably one of Wrexham's main strengths, what they've had over these past seasons. And I hope that stays, because as I just said before, the quality that you go into, everything goes to that next level. And I think it will be tough at times. But I'm sitting here again at the start of last season when he went into League One. I said that I thought they would get promoted again, because I just thought that they had everything in place. The way the football club is going, everything's moving in the right direction. I think if you look at football clubs, everything is right. The players that they've signed at their most important times, the owners that they've got, you probably couldn't ask for anything more at the moment. Of course, that you're going to need to strengthen going into the Championship. But I think as a football club, as a lot of fans around British football would love to be a Wrexham fan and in that position what the club is in.
Yeah, Lee, just talking about, where we've come from and how quickly there's obviously consequences to that. And one of the main talking points this season has been about the fact that Paul Mullin was left out of the matchday squad for much of the second half of the season. From what you've seen of him and as a striker yourself, do you think he couldn't fight his way back into the team in the Championship?
100%. You know what I believe, them type of goals that Mull scores and the amount that he scores, you just don't lose that overnight. Obviously he had the injuries at the start, which kept him out. And then, goal wise, I think as well, when you're being used to scoring that many goals each season, as soon as you go through that little bad patch, and players will say, oh, you just get on with it. But as a striker, it does affect you, and it would affect him because he's been the talisman for the team. He's been the one who scored all the goals. He scored the important goals. And let's be fair, he's been one of the main reasons in Wrexham's success. You can look back, but a lot of it has been Mull's. And I think last season, I think Wrexham fans seen that way. They found it so hard to come across goals, especially in that period of like when probably October onwards type. The fans were, they wanted them goals, and he did hit that bad patch. But I do think that he could come back next season and not surprise me, because I think that he's got it in him. But I think that he could go on and take his game to the level where he can still score them goals in the Championship, because I do think that he's a quality player.
Yeah, I think fans are certainly hoping that's the case. I'm not sure how much you've been keeping up with the transfer rumour mill, but Wrexham have been linked with pretty much everyone you can imagine over the past few weeks. There's a few sort of ex/current Swansea players in there: Ben Davies, Lewis O'Brien, Harry Darling, all been linked. Do you think any of those are realistic, and who would be the most likely to improve Wrexham?
I think obviously Ben just signed his new contract with Spurs, didn't he? So he's out, but I've seen that he was linked. I think Harry Darling for me is someone that I think we're desperate to keep. He's been brilliant for us. He's great in both boxes. He's very good on the ball, bringing it out. So I think any team that Harry goes into, he would strengthen him. I think he's a really good player. Who was the other one that you mentioned? Sorry.
There was Lewis O'Brien, who's from Nottingham Forest. Who was
same again. Lewis was brilliant for us last year. I think especially having Matt Grimes, who was a completely different player to Lewis. Matt would drop into that centre half position to get on the ball, where Lewis wanted to play further up the field and go and drive at players and make things happen. I think he would be a great addition. The only thing I would say about Lewis is obviously he's still contracted to Forest.
Yeah.
He'd be on a very good contract, so it's whether the wages could get matched, because I know that was a stumbling point at Swansea, where you come, and there's the other problem, isn't it, when you move into this Championship, we're not only talking about the quality of the players but the wages as well, where it is a big chance to take on people if you give someone a 3-year contract on so much, because your clubs move forward so fast. That can also hurt you in a way. But I don't think the owners think like that. I do think that they just look forward, and everything that they've said, they've been true to the word. But them type of players, I think, as I say, Harry is someone who would make any team stronger, and I think Lewis would be a great addition as well.
I have to flag you there, Trunds. Twice you did it there, mate. You've forgotten your loyalties. Us.
Yeah, I know.
Twice. I know. Turncoat. Obviously, you played under a fair few managers during your time. Phil Parkinson. I mean, we have the first two seasons, well, the first two promotions, we scored a lot of goals. I mean, the season before that, when we just missed out in the playoffs, we scored a lot of goals. But it is a very rigid system with the 3-5-2, with a lot of big diagonals to an Ollie Palmer for the most part. And we've seen this season, because it is quite rigid, the strikers, when they're not really performing or they're not getting the chances, we do stick to that same tactic. How do you think you'd have got on in the Phil Parkinson side?
I think I would have been fine if you look at where they play. I'd like to be the second one off that though, and not, because if you're someone who's winning that ball all the time, but even when we played with Andy, even though Andy was the one who went in behind, if there was high balls coming in, if it wasn't into my chest, if it was in the air, Andy would be the one who would go up and win them. Then we would play from there. But I think, obviously, direct football, I enjoy direct football because, I think you should have the ball up the field as quick as you can. The only thing went to watch Wrexham and I've watched games, I think when you go into the Championship as well now, the only thing that I would say is with the direct football, you also give possession away a lot. So I just don't know, will he be up against it a lot of the time where they're playing that long ball and then you have to have bodies to go and help and you get caught on the counter attack. That would be my only thing on it. But I'm sure Phil would have a look at that. And, I don't think you can say he's pretty rigid with it and he hasn't changed, but look at the promotions that he's had. So for me, I think, well, you don't really need to change. Okay, you're going to have bad times through the season and you're going to have bad results. But all in all, I think, the way he's played in these leagues, he's got the best out of the team. But I do think that you would need to change a little bit when you go up to the Championship, because I think if you go that way, as I say, you give possession away, and when you give possession away, it could be a while till you get the ball back off these clubs.
Yeah, I mean, it's not on my notes here, but just like because we there was some planning went into this, Trunds, believe it or not. But one thing I was just thinking of there off the cuff is how would Lee Trundle get on back in the day? Say it was that 2003 promotion season. If Welcome to Wrexham was a thing then, how would how would young Trunds get on with the spotlight?
I would have loved it. I think obviously, it's I'm a character who likes to entertain, and I like to have a laugh, and I think it would be, for all the boys, it's raised their profile massively, not only in UK football but worldwide. I think it's been brilliant, and when I watch it, I'm up to date now. I'm waiting for Friday's episode to come out, and I'm really impressed with all the lads, the way they speak on it. I think the way the show is done, I think it's brilliant. It highlights Wrexham in a very good light. That's from the fans to the staff, just people who work at the ground. I think the way they've done it is brilliant. And I think Ryan and Rob, the way they interact together on it, they pull the show together. But if it was going in hard, I think you would have had a lot of fun in that dressing room, because there was some big characters in there, and I think it would have been great.
Yeah, Trunds and Carlos in Vegas. That sounds like a great plan.
Oh, that would have been good.
It's another quick one from me, Lee. Obviously, the trajectory we're on, whether we get promotion or not this season, or whether it is a consolidation, whether it's a relegation scrap, whether it's relegation, who knows? But do you think under the current regime that there is a chance in the coming years that Wrexham can get to the Premier League, the Holy Grail?
100%. I can't see why not. Even in the next few years, I think that they'll be challenging up there, and I don't think Wrexham will be in a relegation battle. I think that they will have too much. The only other thing you're going to get is, even though Wrexham are just coming up from League One, they're a club that everyone will want to beat as well. The same as Birmingham, because the backers and people, if we're being honest, people are jealous of the clubs. Because as I just said before, everyone would love that ownership. So you want to beat this team, especially when they've got their own documentary and things like that. So I think that will be another one to play with. But for Wrexham as well, I think it's one where you're going into these games where suddenly you're the underdog as well. So as a player, your expectation goes from there to probably just in the middle. And hopefully that'll make the lads relax a little bit, because the quality that they've got, they can easy challenge in the Championship. I've watched the league for years, week in, week out, and I don't think they will be in a relegation at the bottom. I do think it'll be mid-table, but who knows with what they've done over the past couple of years. I wouldn't be surprised if they were up amongst the playoffs.
Yeah, you touched on the something interesting there with the jealousy from other clubs. We see this all the time where people are saying things like, Rob and Ryan are ruining football. Obviously, you're someone who's kept up with the impact it's had on Wrexham, the town, the people, and all that type of thing. What would your thoughts be? Your response be to someone who says that?
Exactly what I've just said. Then it's just pure jealousy, because how can you say two people like that are ruining your football club when what they've done? They brought it from the bottom league and they've brought you right the way up into the Championship. Not only that, they've helped people around the city. They've brought the women's football on and highlighted that more. I think everything that they've done is a positive. I don't think anyone from outside can look at one negative that they brought bad to the club. People are saying, oh, Hollywood FC. Well, of course, if you're owned by two owners like that who are well known, especially with Ryan as a super movie star, people are always going to label you like that. But it's total jealousy, because, as I say, every football fan would want ownership like that, because not only have they put the money where the mouth is and backed everyone, they also care about what they're doing in the city as well. So they're not just coming in and taking it by storm and whoever gets left in the past gets left. You know, you can see they care even when they've had players who've played at certain levels and then they're not moving to the next level and they've got to move on. There's still that bit of care about them as well. And you can tell when the players move on, the way they still speak about the club and the owners, that, you know, you're not just discarded. You know, everyone has played their part in getting it where it is, and they're appreciative to everyone.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and Swansea have had a bit of stardust of their own in recent months with the announcement about Luka Modric coming in. Do you think he can have a similar impact, or does he bring something different to the table as like an elite level footballer?
Yeah, I think he brings something different on that way, because I think obviously, you know, with Luka and the levels that he's played at, he would be able to have that different input on from a football side. I think he would have a lot of, you know, connections, whether it be to players, whether it be to managers, the way football is now. You know, it changes so fast. And even just him ringing you up to have a phone call to just say, you know, about what the football club is going to do and how they're going to try and move on and get out of the championship. So I think he can have a massive impact on that side, different to Rob and Ryan, but I think you would respect him more as, for me, one of the best midfielders that's played the game.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, what a Ballon d'Or winner. Won it all he can with Real Madrid. But
Yeah.
I mean, how many times does he dominate the showboat on Soccer AM, Trunds? That's one thing you've got over me.
That's a different story, isn't it? If you want to speak showboat, and come to me and I'll fill you in on anything you want, mate.
Let's just not talk that dodgy mullet, eh? Yeah. And
Well,
that's
yeah,
coming from
you
me.
had it.
I know. That's coming from me. I know pot kettle black there, mate. I'll give you that one. Speaking of the tricks and the skills, obviously the first time we got invited, a Wrexham side got invited to the TST tournament out in the States. You were one of the players over there, yourself, Moz, were just two of the players there. Has there been an invite to go back at all this year? Because
Do you
obviously
know
it's just
what I
finished
think?
up now.
Do you know, with me as well? Because, well, I went on the first year with Wrexham, and then Swansea put a team in.
Yeah,
And then obviously with my work, I went with Swansea, and then they haven't went back. So I think that the invite has gone off that because I moved on to Swansea. But same again, no, it was a great experience. And as I've spoke about it before, and to see the impact that Wrexham have over there. You know, when we played with Wrexham over there, we were on the main pitches every time. It was full with all the fans. It was all red around it. Everyone wanted to speak to us and talk about the football club. And what a great experience to go out there. So it was brilliant to go in the first one, and I'm glad that they've carried on going, and especially with the ladies team going over as well, because it's brilliant for Wrexham to get their name out. But I think, you know, what Rob and Ryan are doing to show the club, you know, going over to these tournaments, same again, it's that type of care where, you know, you're letting, it's not just about the first team, you know, you're bringing everyone involved into great stuff, because it's things where once in a lifetime stuff where you would never get the chance to do it. So, you know, they're making that happen for people.
Yeah, we talked about it on the episode we recorded at the weekend, where it's like we have one of our former strikers up front this year, Jake Hyde, who's in the National League, and then you've got another team there with Sergio Aguero up front, just smashing goals in. It's like just nuts. But what was it like in terms of a social aspect over there? I mean, obviously, I'm sure a few beers were had, but just getting to like reconnect with, say, a Mozza and spending a bit of time with some of the players there.
Yeah, it was brilliant, especially when you say Mozza, because, you know, me and him were strike partners, and obviously spent them years together as players. So it was great with him. But it was, as you say, it was great to just all get together because we were all saying the same as well. What an opportunity for us to come and play out here in a tournament like this. And, you know, everyone had a great time. And even though when you say like beers, it was at the right time. You know, when we were playing the games in the tournaments, because it's so close together. You know, we done everything right, and, you know, on the first one, made a good account of ourselves as well, and the impact it had on social media for everyone. Obviously, we played against the American women, who have now won it. They won it again this weekend. They won it the first time in the women's one, and they've won it again. So that was great to play against them. But, you know, we all had a great time out there.
Yeah, and you show no mercy in that. How many goals did you get in that game?
4. But same again, no. And I do think, you know, even after the game, like, they come up to us and said, "Oh, thanks for playing properly." Because I think if you're playing a game and then if you start messing around or doing, you know, it's disrespectful to them. So I would play the game as I would play it against the men. And I think the ladies respected that after the game when we were chatting.
Yeah, I mean, you are still playing as of the end of this season, just gone for Trefellin, the age of, I don't want to say it, I don't want to dig you up,
No,
but
that's all right.
48 years of age, and you're looking well, healthy, fit as a fiddle. Whenever I see you in person, it's, dare I say, fitter than your playing days. I'm not saying that you were unfit, Trunds, but no, you're just saying you're looking well, mate. You're
Careful.
digging a hole here, digging
Do
a
you know
hole.
what? I think like obviously just my shape has changed. You know, when I played, I used to hate going in the gym. So
Yeah.
when I was at Wrexham, I never done any gym work. When I moved to Swansea, I never done any gym work. I just didn't like that side of it. Put me on a training field with a ball, and I'll stay out there for as long as you wanted. But I didn't like the gym stuff. It wasn't until I started getting older that I started going in the gym and look after myself a bit that way. But now I'm 2 stone heavier than what I was with me playing weight. But even if you
Really?
looked at me, I probably look different,
Yeah.
but still 2 stone heavier. But I think I still need to do that to play now, and I couldn't not go in the gym and do my strength and conditioning stuff, and and because I want to play for as long as I can, that goes hand in hand to look after myself, and I enjoy getting myself ready for these games. I think what did I scored 22 last season in all competitions, so
Brilliant.
I want to then go again, and I want to try and beat that this season, and hope that we can get promoted as well.
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of answered my next question there, because I was going to ask you, do you intend to carry on playing? Because I remember you did your knee probably about 18 months ago, 2 years ago. I remember speaking to you at the time, and because you were going in to have a surgery and saying like, so is that it? And you're like, no, no, no. Once I get back, if everything's all right, I'll carry on. So is that you're going again next season,
Oh,
Trunds?
1,000,000%. Yeah, as I say, and that was like I'd missed half of the season when I'd done me MCL. But then in that close season to get myself ready, I worked really hard and got myself back, and I felt good this year. And you know what? As long as I can keep going out there and I feel as though I'm contributing, I'll stay out there. I wouldn't want to just be out there just for the sake of playing, and I'm not scoring goals, or I'm not assisting, and I'm not affecting the game. If that comes to the point, it could be this season, could be next. I don't know. But once that happens, then I would come away from that level, and then I would just go and play vets football, which I do on a Sunday now anyway. But I don't want to just be out there because I'm Lee Trundle who's played professional. I want to be out there where I'm helping the team and still scoring goals.
There's been Lee. You've obviously had a lot of personal success this season. Wrexham have got promoted. Swansea have turned their form round. Wales have had a bit of a resurgence under Craig Bellamy, but there was also some very very tragic news for a certain team not too far from Swansea. How are you feeling about Cardiff's relegation?
Do you know what? Well, it's tragic's not a word I'd use if I'm being honest. But you know, on that, it's just I get so much stick on Twitter, and do you know what? It's a handful of them that do it. But the stick that I get, it's just, well, in football rivalry, if you're getting stick, this is the best time I will ever have where they've just got relegated. And do you know what? Deep down, if I'm honest, I will miss the derby games. I'm glad Wrexham's come up because it's another Welsh derby. But I think it would have been great if the three of us were in there, and you had the three of them in. But just because of the stick I get off that little certain amount, that give me my ammunition to go and get them. And you know what? I think people just think they're going to go into League One and it's going to be easy and it'll bounce up. It's going to be tough. And we talk about the way clubs are run. You look at what's going on there, where the manager's gone. Then they put Ramsey in charge for the games, and then they're talking about bringing Nathan Jones in and doing everything. Oh, he's coming in. Then he signs a new contract with Charlton. Then Ramsey goes to Mexico to play, and it's like, if you're looking from the outside as a football club, or if you're one of them fans, I do think it's very worrying time for them. But as I say, next season I would like it if they done well, got back in, and then the three of us are all in the championship, and there'd be some great games there.
Yeah, I've got to say I do enjoy watching your interactions with them on Twitter. You've got them on the end of a fishing rod half the time.
That's the thing. I don't even have to say anything at sometimes. Like, yeah, I just put laughing faces, and they would all come in, and it's like, well, I haven't even said nothing about your club. Like they got beat by Leeds 7-0, and I just put a can of 7 Up on, and then they were all firing in on that. But listen, it's like, for me, that's football banter. I'll take banter if like, so obviously when Wrexham were getting beat, or if Swansea get beat, even if Bristol get beat, they'll come at me every single angle. So whatever team I play for, they will still come at me. So for me, that's football banter. As long as people are being nice and stuff, I'll interact and have a laugh. But some take it over the top. But you can't. You're always going to get that on social media.
Yeah, good fun though. I'm just going to take things a bit back now because there's a man who we love to chat about on this podcast, a legend at both Wrexham and Swansea. And, what impact did Brian Flynn have, not only for those teams, but also, your career personally as well?
Oh, I think Brian Flynn was the most important person in my football career, 100%. He was the one that gave me my chance with Wrexham, brought me from the League of Wales, which, when Wrexham was in League One, that's still a big chance, from the League of Wales to League One it's a big step. So for him to put that faith in me, and then if he wasn't the manager of Swansea, I never ever would have come to Swansea either, because we'd just been promoted at Wrexham. I'm moving 4 hours away from my home. So the only reason I went to, and I had to drop down a division to come to Swansea as well. The main reason why I come here was because of Brian Flynn. And I'll still speak to him. When I speak to him, I still call him Gaffer as well. So I'll see him, I'll speak to him on the phone. But as I say, for me, the biggest impact, and just as a manager, he was someone who, when I went out on the pitch, I always believed that I could play with that freedom, and he would just let me go out there and express myself.
Yeah, totally. What a character as well. We had him at one of our recent live nights, and he had everyone in stitches with a couple of his anecdotes as well. He can still tell a good tale.
Yeah, he is. He's very good.
especially after a couple of glasses.
Yeah, definitely.
He was doing the old Chumbawamba song, I think, at times, where it's going through all the different drinks. Have a whiskey drink, have a large drink, cider drink. Yeah, what a man. Absolute legend of Welsh football, Flinny. Another legend of Welsh football, of Wrexham, of British football, world football, whatever. Actually, just raises on my T-shirt. Mr. Joey Jones. How important was Joey for you, Lee? And what about the story of him finding out you were still playing Sunday League on the sly, even though you were signing professional at Wrexham?
Yeah, well, I would still play all the way through in Sunday League. I just use a different second name. And then obviously I had my debut at home. I come on in the last 10 minutes. And then I went and played for the lads the next day. 'Cause on a weekend, I just love playing football, so I'm dying for the game. I'd only played 10 minutes on Saturday, so I wanted to have a game. I went and played. I think I scored about 9 as well on the Sunday, so it wasn't really going under the radar. And then when I come into training, Joey was in there and he said, "You played yesterday?" And I went, "I didn't." And he went, "Listen, I know you did. That's the last time you'll play. Don't play again. This is your career now. If you get injured there, your career's gone." And as I say, a man like Joey Jones, what he's done in football and the respect he had, he's someone that you listen to. And that was the last game I played then. But, just having Joey around the place. And, as I say, in the gym, he was the fittest one in the gym. He was always in there. Do you remember Big Mal as well?
Yeah, Mal Purchase.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Big Mal, we used to be in there as well, putting the sessions on. But back then, he was still fit as a fiddle, and what a player, and the things that he's done in football, someone to look up to. And it was great to have him at the football club because everyone took advice off him as well.
Yeah, somebody who, no disrespect to him, didn't quite get to the heights of Joey Jones, but I always love to ask about him whenever anyone that's played with him is on these things. I always call him the Enigma. Hector Sam. Any Hector stories you've got for us?
Hector was just so laid back, wasn't he? I remember, we go on about food and that, and I remember Hector used to have a McDonald's for pre-match. If we were coming on the coach, he'd get on with a bag of McDonald's on. But someone who, on his day, where he'd weave in and out, he'd score goals. And I think, they're with him, Carlos and Dennis together, they were brilliant in the dressing room for team morale. The lads that we had in there, in that dressing room, as I say, some big characters, but Hector was one of them, where always had a smile on his face, always happy, and a brilliant player to play with.
Yeah, on his day it was rare, but on his day he was untouchable. I remember seeing him.
When you got him on his day, the way he would weave through people, and he was a bit sort of like a Paolo One-Shot, where you'd think he was going to lose it, but he would always just keep the ball. He always had it under control, where sometimes he looked like he didn't, but he always knew what he was doing, and some of the things that he'd do on the pitch, he was great to play with.
Yeah, I remember scoring a hat trick away at, I want to say older, maybe. It was somebody Northwest in blue. Clean Stockport, clean Macclesfield. It was around about Christmas time. He scored a hat trick, and you watched him thinking, "That's it. This lad is gold dust. He's going to kick on from here." And then by the next week, it's like, has he ever seen a football? And
I think that's the frustrating part in football as well, isn't it? I think when you go down the levels, you see players that can turn it on one day, and then they might have a few days games off and then they're back again. Where I think when we were speaking about the Championship before, that's where it changes and everyone is really consistent when you get up there, and that is a big difference when you go up the levels.
Yeah.
Lee, we could talk about some of these characters all day. I think we had in that team. It's just I still think of people like Andy Dibble and Andy Gilpin, who's on this podcast, always tells a story about him being in a chewing gum white towel every time he went to interview him at Collier's. Bloody hell, I could go on forever. But I've got a shithouse question to pose for you here. Next season, Wrexham or Swansea, who's finishing higher?
Do you know what? This is a very tough one. I think Swansea have recruited really well. But I also think that because they haven't played in this league before, you just don't know what you're going to get at the moment, because they are people who are coming from overseas. Depending who Wrexham bring in as well, because I think that's going to be one of the big things, recruitment. I think they've got that right beforehand. If I was gonna hang me hat on it now, I just think because Swansea have been more established, they're used to the league, they know what they're getting. I probably would say Swansea, but I do think that the two clubs won't be far away from each other. But on the same note, if Wrexham go on and do that, it wouldn't surprise me either. But I just think if we're looking at with the signings that Swansea have made up to now, I would probably just say Swansea.
Trunds, what's that underneath you? That's almost a fence there that you sat on. Just about, just slightly, just about.
I did say Swansea would finish higher, but I do think Wrexham will be around there because I think if you look at the teams and the players, I don't think there's going to be a lot of difference. The difference is when you get to them top three. I think if you look at the ones that have come down, I think they're going to be the strong ones. I think Ipswich for me will win the league. And I think you've got Leicester and who was the other one?
Southampton.
Yeah. Sheffield United in there. I think it will still be them ones around the top, because I just think when you come up against them in the Championship, they're really strong and you can see the difference. But then you see the difference going to the Premier League, and then it gets another 100 steps again, and they become the bottom teams then. But I do think them top ones, when you play against them, you see the real difference. On the other ones, it's margins.
Yeah, have we got an open invite to the LT10 lounge at Swansea next season then, yeah?
100%. Just let me know when you'll be in there, no problem.
Free bar, Trunds, yeah?
Yeah, I'll get you a few, and yeah.
Hey,
he's pushing it now. He's pushing it.
Yeah, in case people don't know, Trunds does have his own lounge, isn't it? You do hospitality on match days there. At Swansea.
Well, I think all in all with the club, and when you bring up we and stuff like that, and if you look at, I've been here over 20 years now at the club, so it's like, it's a long time. Not only you're playing, but then obviously my club ambassador role and what I do in the city and on a match day and stuff. And when you live in the city, it takes over you as well. And that's the thing I always say about Wrexham, because I lived in Liverpool and it was so close. You just come in and out, so you don't really get a feel for, like, when you're watching Welcome to Wrexham, you don't get that feel for the fans where you're like in the shops and you're speaking to them, because you're not really around them like that. So you get the feel for it when you watch the show. Where when you move to the city, if you move to Swansea, you've got to live in Swansea because it's so far away from everywhere, and you get a feel for the club, what it means to people, and you just get brought in by it. But for me, Wrexham is someone that I've always, even since when I've left, I've always looked out for the results. I've always looked out for what they're doing, because especially when they were in the National League, they're a club where they need to be in league football. The history, the heritage of the club, the fans, you can see what they've been like over this journey, and the fans deserve that as well. So it's a club where you see when I come back, I always want them to do well. And even when I'm away from it, I'll still look at them and look for the results, because I want to see my old club, especially when it is someone like Wrexham who means so much to me, because that was my first professional team. I always want to see them do well too.
Yeah, we can excuse the odd us here and there. We'll let it slide, mate. I guess a nice last question to wrap it up before we let you crack on with your evening. When you look back at that time at Wrexham, then just your favourite memories that come out, and dare I ask, is there a favourite goal? Because let's be honest, mate, there was a lot of fantastic goals. You got that in the locker.
Yeah, I think my favourite goal has got to be the overhead kick on me full debut. I think doesn't matter where you're at, what team you play for. If you go in and score an overhead kick on your debut, and then that sparks a comeback where you go on and win the game. I set the winner up for Craig Falconbridge as well at the end. So that's something that, I think for me that goes down as my best goal. Although it probably technically I've scored better. And then if you go on moments, I'd probably say the hat-trick against Oxford as well at home.
Yeah.
And when you look back on that game, you think, how could you even play football on that pitch? And it's like, because I scored a couple of long range, well, I probably couldn't run with the ball on that pitch the way it was at that time. And I had to hit it at that, but I would probably say as a moment, that would be it. But then when you look at the season where we got promoted as well, and not just so much me, like, personally scoring, some of them team goals that we scored, like the one where it's Carlos goes and wins it back in the corner, big diag to me, I get it on the left, cross, Andy Mirel comes into that space and scores that header. So many great moments in it, and just the journey of taking us to that promotion as well was a thing that I would always be proud of.
Yeah, it's a special season. Even to this day, I'd say that's probably could well be my favourite season watching Wrexham, just in terms of the football, the 3-5-2, the Edwards brothers, as it were, Paul and Carlos on the side. Just little moments as well. We think of, like, Lee Jones's winner in the last minute away at Shrewsbury that was just basically got us over the line pretty much. Yeah, it's
and I think if you look at that, not just as a team but as a squad, look at the players that you're bringing on from the bench, or if it was Andy and me on, or if it was Andy and Jonah, or other players you had there. You had a lot of talent in from goalkeeper right the way through the squad, and it was a squad that deserved to get promoted.
Yeah, and Jim Whitley. I've always got all the time to love Jim Whitley.
Brilliant.
I think he goes overlooked a little bit because he just did everything so well, simple.
Do you know, on that as well, I think because he's so consistent every week, you just expect that from him. So you don't think, oh, he's done brilliant. But you would say Jim is always a 7 and an 8 out of 10 every single game. He wouldn't play bad. He would always give you the same. And as I say, another player who had, tremendous quality and was a big part of our success.
Yeah, right. So I feel like I've waffled on here. I can go through these players one by one, mate, but I know you've got plenty to do. You're in the West Wing kitchen here as we're recording this, so it's going to take you about half an hour to get back to the front room. Is it at Trundle Towers?
I've got the golf cart there. I'll bring you down.
Brilliant. Trons, absolute pleasure, mate. Always good to have a natter. Thanks for giving up so much time. I should throw in as well, if you want to check out our fantastic newsletter, that's in the description below this. Buy us a coffee, like, share, subscribe. Of course, again, a shout out to our sponsors, the Fat Boy Mold and Wrexham, Hill Street Social, the Whites Go In, FA's Carnivore, the Book, and the Croyce Howl. Trons, next time you're up, we'll take you to all of them, mate. Every single one.
100%. And I'll definitely be down this season to catch a game as well in the Championship. Not only I'll be down for the Swansea one, definitely, but I will come down for another 100%.
Yeah, fancy coming to the Mice Go In to do pre-match for Swansea at home?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, I could do that, actually. Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Right.
As long as I don't get lynched in there, and I'll stay neutral.
Switzerland over here, neutral. Brill. Liam, anything to add, or we letting the great man go?
No, that was an absolute pleasure, though, mate. Always good to chat to you.
Thank you, Liam. Nice one, mate.
Absolute gold, Trons. You have a good night, mate, and have a good off season, and we'll catch you next year in the Championship.
Thanks, boys. See you soon.
Catch you later.
Bye bye.